today's video, I'm going to be sharing a gluten-free vegan bread recipe. I have been trying and failing at making gluten-free bread since December 2020, and I finally have a recipe that I'm happy with. So I'm going to share it with you guys in this video. For this bread, you're going to need flax meal or flaxseed flour. And all I'm doing here is grinding some flaxseed until it's a nice fine flour, and then I'm going to add that to a bowl. 1/3 cup of whole flaxseed will turn into just over half a cup of ground flaxseed. I will put the measurements in terms of the cup sizes as well as grams in the description box below, and I will have this recipe on my website, so if you'd like a printable version of this for a later date, you'll be able to get that from my website. The two flours that you will need to make this bread are brown rice flour and gram flour, and the gram flour is just a mix of yellow split peas and chickpeas. To replace the gluten in this bread, I'm going to be using Psyllium Husk. Psyllium husk is derived from a plant or a seed, and it's naturally quite high in fiber. And what I'm using here is actually the husk and not the powder. I will link in the description box the brand that I'm using. I'm not sure if this brand is available in different parts of the world, but I definitely got my Psyllium Husk from Amazon UK, so I will link that in the description box below. In addition to elasticity, the Psyllium Husk is going to help the bread to retain its moisture. Then you're going to add some baking powder and salt to the dry mix and mix everything together. It's really important that you mix the dry mix completely together, properly incorporating the salt, the baking powder, and the Psyllium Husk into the flours. Once I have that thoroughly mixed together, I'm just going to set that to the side and then make the wet mixture. I am using a bit of maple syrup in this recipe because I feel like it gives the bread a really nice final taste. And the liquid portion for this recipe is sparkling water. Do not be deceived by this fancy looking bottle. This bottle costs like £1.75. I guess the American equivalent would be like $1. It wasn't something that was expensive or anything like that. And the sparkling water is going to react with the baking powder and just help the bread to rise as much as possible. So the sparkling water in combination with the gram flour is going to help the bread to rise. And now I'm just adding in the maple syrup, and that's the liquid part for this bread recipe. Add the water gradually and just mix this. All of the foam that you can see at the top of the mix, that's just the baking powder reacting with the carbonated water, and that will disappear soon. And at the moment, this is looking like a batter and not a dough, but it will firm up. The Psyllium husk will firm up, the chickpea flour will absorb some of that liquid, and by the time we're ready to put this in the oven, it will look like a dough. Stay with me. After about a minute or a minute and a half mixing, this is what the mixture looked like. And what I'm going to do is just leave this to rest uncovered just in my kitchen on the counter, and then come back in 20 minutes. While the dough is resting, preheat your oven to 180 degrees and prepare your work area. So this was the dough after 20 minutes, and what I'm going to do now is lightly dust the top part of the dough as well as the parchment paper, and this will just help with the dough because it is still quite sticky at this point. Once you have the dough on the floured surface, you want to knead the dough gently. Here, I'm trying to get the perfect shape for the bread. I know when people make sourdough breads, they tend to put it in one of those sourdough baskets, but I don't have one of those. You could probably just use a regular bowl as well, just to try and get that shape that you're looking for. But I just play around with it, dusting it as needed until I get my desired shape. And then finally, I just fold it underneath itself, and the dough or the bread loaf, unprepared loaf, is pretty much ready. I do a final dusting, and this final dusting is going to help to create a nice crunchy crust to the bread. In this next clip, you will notice that I'm using a sharp knife to score the bread dough. This will help with the baking process, but do this last. Just before scoring, use a pastry brush, a wet pastry brush, to lightly dab and brush some water onto the dry flour. This will help with the overall appearance of the bread, as well as create a nice crispy crunch on top. As soon as you score the dough, it will start to fall flat. That's why you will do it just before putting the dough into the oven. The total baking time for this loaf was 50 minutes, so 25 minutes on each side. 25 minutes into the baking, you're going to do a 180 turn of the loaf and leave it to bake on the other side for 25 more minutes. You may need to bake this for 30 minutes on each side depending on your oven. Allow the bread to cool thoroughly before slicing into it. I know it's going to be really tempting to just go and slice into the warm bread, but it is really important to just leave the bread to cool thoroughly before slicing into it. And look, we have nice, soft, sweet, gluten-free bread. Use a bread knife to slice the loaf. You'll get perfect slices if you use a bread knife, but you could also use a really sharp knife. I'm not the biggest sandwich fan, but I do like toasted bread, so I'm going to show you what this bread looks like when toasted. Golden, toasted, delicious, gluten-free bread made with wholesome ingredients. I feel like I've been withholding my excitement all through this video, and I think it's because I've made this bread quite a few times over the last 3 weeks to 1 month. And I guess the excitement isn't as fresh anymore, but it has been such a journey trying to learn how to make gluten-free bread. And towards the end of the video, I'm going to just insert some clips when I started documenting my gluten-free bread making journey. I didn't think it was going to be a journey, but it turned out to be a little bit of a journey. So I'm going to include those clips at the end of some of my failures in trying to perfect gluten-free bread. And is this bread perfect? No. Am I incredibly happy with it where it is now? Yes. If you've enjoyed this video, do remember to hit the like button, and if you're brand new here, Remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you know exactly when I share a new video. Let me know if you're going to try this recipe. Let me know once you've tried this recipe. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Way too wet. I'm not going to be defeated though. Let's put that over there. This is the top of it. It's cracked at the top. The sides are looking dry. The thing is, the sides came out dry and the bottom dry. But we shall not be defeated. I'm going to, I don't know, I'm just going to have to regroup, back to the drawing board and try again. Ooh, I'm so excited to cut my bread.